Hello, hello, and thank you for joining us. We have the lovely Dawnelle.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here.
And first of all, I just want to apologize with the technical difficulties we had going live today. However, what we'll do is we'll record this one and get everything sorted so you can join us live next time. And if you have any questions that you want to submit after the video, then feel free to comment below and let us know, or you can also message us. We will be around to help solve anything coercive control. So with that being said, let's get started. What I want to open the session with is a bit about what we're going to cover today. So I think for me, coercive control is, for me, it's like being trapped in your head where you're constantly questioning yourself. It's always that like second guessing and you're just doubting yourself. So what I like to compare it with is like a simple example, choosing what to wear. So it is a privilege and a freedom to choose what you get to wear every day. For example, before Dawnelle and I came on the live today, or recorded version today, we had a quick little chat, and I complimented her on her beautiful red and jewellery. And I said, I chose this dress. It's actually a dress, you can't see, but it's one of my favorites. It's a beautiful linen material and the blue matches my eyes. And one of the beauties of this is I got to choose what to wear today. And I chose this dress because it is one of my favorites. And I do feel confident when I wear this dress. It's something that I like to wear to show and share how I feel. I feel like it makes me feel good, that I exude confidence when I wear this dress. And I'm proud to wear this dress. However, in coercive control, this freedom can be taken away. So for me, when I was in my marriage with my ex-husband, he used to lay out the clothes on the bed for me to wear. So this is just a prime example of coercive control that we are going to cover off on today. So with that being said, I want to leave you with this little myth before we get started. If you think about coercive control and taking away that freedom, how can you combat that? Well, for me, I have found to combat coercive control, you need awareness and empowerment. So with that being said, I want to welcome you to our session today and thank you for joining us, whether it be live or later. We will sort that out for next time. Thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts, and for you listening to our thoughts on coercive control. This is something that is very important to us, so we are extremely excited to be able to share our insights and help raise awareness on this very important topic. So I would like to introduce and welcome Dawnelle.
Thanks, Amy. Hello, everyone. So glad to be here. As I said before, I am an overcomer or a survivor of a domestic violence relationship. I was married for 16 years, and most often it does not feel like things start off being very controlling or manipulative. And you may not even realize that you are being controlled or manipulated once you're in it. As I said, I was married 16 years. I have 3 beautiful children out of it, but I spent the time where things were controlled. Where I went, everywhere I went, I needed to call. If I didn't call within a specific amount of time, then there was issues for me. As Amy mentioned, the clothes that you're wearing, they weren't laid out for me, but if it wasn't something that he liked, I needed to change, and I needed to change right away. And there was no questions about it. For me, the manipulation and control didn't really come to light until towards the very end of my marriage, where I started to question. I used to start questioning myself, saying, am I crazy? Are these things really happening? And for me, things didn't end as smoothly, where I was able to leave and all parties ended and went in their separate way. For me, it ended up that my ex took his life, and I started to move on. And that's how I met Amy. I decided that I was going to have that change, get back my confidence, get back my self-awareness, find myself. And I was out on Instagram one day. Amy posted something, and I was like, yes, I want that change. So here I am. I've taken a couple of courses with Amy, and I'm on the path of healing and recovery.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of your story and your introduction, and how we met. I think it's been like just over, about a year and 3 months, I think. And it's been so good to watch you grow and really embrace the healing and empowerment from domestic violence. So, as I'm sure you know by now, my name is Amy Hill, and I founded the Freedom Mentor. I am a domestic violence survivor mentor. I am an author of My Life on Eggshells, and I am a speaker on raising awareness for domestic violence. So I founded the Freedom Mentor, like I said, 2020. So just before I crossed paths with Dawnelle. And the aim for starting this business was to help other domestic violence survivors. So I had done a lot of healing myself, a lot of work on myself. I continue to do a lot of healing and a lot of work on myself. And then I thought, well, I have completely transformed my life. So now I want to do the same for others. I thought, why can't I share this with other domestic violence survivors? And that's what I did. So I'm very excited to come on here and share my insights with you. And we can get started on sharing our insights for coercive control. And next month we will have a different topic, and we will continue to go through and address different issues on domestic violence. So with that being said, let's jump into some key findings that you've got there, Dawnelle.
Okay, thanks, Amy. So I think Amy did a really good job at the beginning explaining what coercive control is. Just to give a couple other points about it. So coercive control is a pattern of controlling behaviors that creates an unequal power in a relationship. And most of the time it's an intimate relationship with a partner. It gives the abuser power over over their partner, making it difficult for them to leave, making it difficult for them to have their independence. And oftentimes it can escalate to physical abuse. It tends to erode a person's confidence, their self-esteem, their independence. And overall, it is a form of domestic abuse. It's a form of emotional abuse that usually leads to trauma. So what most frequently happens with this behavior is that the abuser is jealous, will have constant insults, will monitor your activities, for example, your movements, your phone, the people that you interact with. There's also financial abuse, where basically they take away all the ability for you to make any sort of movement with your money. And then also isolations from your friends and family. And also convincing the victim that they're crazy, that all of these things aren't happening, that the monitoring activities are just because they love you so much. The financial abuse because they want you, they're just taking care of it. You're working hard. You don't need to take that under your wings. There's always some excuse for the behavior that's going on, and most will tend to believe it after you've been in it for so long. So let's give some real statistics and facts about coercive control. So Amy did not say when she first started, but she's from Australia, and I am here in the United States. And so I'm just going to kind of give you 2 points of view with the statistics. So in Australia, there's been a study where about 1,000 women did a study and found out that experienced coercive control from either their current or their former partners. So about 54% of these women also experienced some form of physical abuse. And out of these women, the ones that experienced physical abuse were more likely to seek help. So what about the rest? This is something that women are either, as I said before, don't know that it's happening, or they're just afraid of how to bring it up because there's always a reason. There's always a reason that the abuser will have. So also in the United States, and according to the National Disease Control, about 48.4% of women and about 48.8% of men have experienced psychological aggressive behavior within their intimate relationships. And then about 4 in 10 women, that's about 40%, experience coercive control. And 19.9% experience a situation of isolation from their family and friends. And about 18% experience threats of physical harm. 95% of the men who physically abuse also emotionally abuse their intimate partners. And 65% of women who earn more than 65% more of their household income are more likely to experience coercive control than women who earn less. That's an interesting fact.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Because in my situation, I was the person earning the most in the household. And so that was a very interesting fact to me.
Yeah, it was the same for me as well. Yeah. Yeah.
So it hits home. It seems to be more prevalent.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think like how you described it, about the abuser almost trying to trick you, but they've always got some sort of justification, like, I'm just looking after you. And when they try and like justify it like that, because you've already been love bombed and drawn into this situation, you don't tend to question their motive, especially when they justify it so well. Like, I'm just like trying to look after you. So yeah, I think those statistics are totally Well, they're on point, but I think they're also alarming in such that I wasn't aware of the 65%, but it definitely makes sense. And that is the whole reason for doing this EduSeries, is to raise awareness, is to highlight the issue. Because even though you are a breadwinner of the household, it doesn't mean that you therefore won't experience psychological abuse. Like, we just need to have an open mind, and without awareness, you may not know what's going on. So it's very important to share these statistics and also what actually is coercive control. So thank you. So I think for me, with my experience, I went through 10 years of domestic violence, and this was when I met my now ex-husband, and things started to happen for me in such a way where I was naively love bombed for the first 6 months of our relationship. And I say naively because I didn't recognize what love bombing was. I was just being swept off my feet by Prince Charming, or so I thought. Then we relocated interstate, and I didn't realize that not only would this be a physical isolation, but also a psychological isolation too. So that is when the penny started to drop. So for me, it started with little things, like he was trying to get me to second guess myself in such a way that I didn't realize. For example, he would say, "Why didn't you pay that bill? Great, now we're going to have a late fee." And I was left thinking, well, hang on. Like, you didn't ask me to pay that bill. And then I thought, well, maybe he did. Oh, now I feel bad. And then that cycle was constant. Just that, like planting that seed of doubt that maybe he did ask me to pay that bill. And then I feel bad because now we've got to pay this late fee. Like, there are consequences. So this is a continuous cycle. It really wore me down psychologically, always second guessing myself. And I didn't recognize it because you're so like trapped in there because you are isolated. A lot of the time that isolation, it doesn't have to be physical, but they can cut you off from seeing people, or perhaps suggest that you don't, and try and control you in those ways. So yeah, it just completely wore me down until I was unrecognizable to myself. I felt like I was trapped inside my head, constantly questioning myself, like feeling like I can't escape. I felt like I had no choice. I was trapped psychologically. So the coercive control increased after that, where, like I mentioned at the start, he would lay out the clothes on the bed for me to wear. And coercive control is such where, because it's psychological, other people can't see it. And generally, they can't understand it because it is psychological. It's not something that you can see. And it can therefore be hard for people to believe. Or some may even trivialize it by saying, simple, just choose your own clothes. But it's not that simple. So the other thing he used to do was dictate not only what food to eat, but how much. So he would measure out a cup of cereal. That's all you get. And this was for me and for my son. So the coercive control did increase, but by that stage, I had already been sucked in and I was questioning myself. So I wasn't able to take myself outside and look back in to see what was going on because I didn't have the awareness. I didn't know what coercive control was. I didn't know what to look for. So for me, I quickly lost any independence and my identity was taken away. For example, he took control and access over my phone and bank accounts. And it was similar to what Dawnelle said. He was claiming to just help me out because he was an entrepreneur making a whole lot of nothing while I was working full time. So he was claiming he just wanted to help me out. And then it started to become a bit obvious when my phone would go off with a message, ding, and he would quickly grab it first. And he would say, "Don't worry, I've got this," before he even looked at the message. So it didn't matter what that message said. He reiterated that I didn't matter. My thoughts didn't matter. My opinions didn't matter. It made me feel so insignificant, like I didn't even exist. And this paved the way for a further 10 years of domestic violence.
Wow. That is something to go through. That's something to have to go through, and to have it extend for 10 years. It's you're trapped within your own mind. It's like chains that are invisible.
That's exactly right. And if you're not aware of like what these things are, then how or why would you take yourself out? Especially when you're cut off from other people who could help you untangle these mind games. So yeah, coercive control is very, very dangerous. Yeah.
Yes, you make a good point about being isolated. In my situation, I was moved away from my family and my friends.
Yeah.
I didn't have contact with my mother for almost 2 years. Didn't have contact with my brothers for almost 2 years. I had friends, but only the friends in which he could control, or they were not very self-confident themselves. And I later find out that friends left because he had conversations with them. And I had no clue of this. It's very interesting and very shocking and scary. And like Amy said, how do you get out? The only way you can get out is being aware of these behaviors.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When you are aware, that's only when you can do something. So we do have the beautiful Alicia joining us. She is just connecting now. So thank you for sharing your story as well. Isn't it interesting that, you know, we've gone through similar things? Like this is a pattern. Like this happens to people. Hi, Alicia, how are you? Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Alicia?
Yes, I can hear you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. So,
Hi, Alicia.
So Dawnelle and I have just been sharing our stories and insights into coercive control. And I was just explaining how it happened with me, like the cutting off the access and control to the phone, to my phone and bank accounts, telling me what to, showing me what to wear, and dictating my food. So did you want to share a bit about your story as well?
Sure. Yeah, I had to deal with all of that stuff. I'm still dealing with it right now, going through divorce proceedings where he's got all of our assets tied up. So that's why I thought this would be a good thing to watch and learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're going through this now, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, the first step is to have the awareness. So it's good that you're able to recognize like what's going on, and that you are obviously like seeking help. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. I will be sharing the recording in the Facebook group as well, so you can catch the first half. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you're going through this. I think for me, like I said, awareness is the first step, and then empowering yourself. So we're actually just going to go through that now. Was there anything, did you want to share anything specifically about your experience? Otherwise, I can explain a bit more about it.
No, you can just go ahead. I ended the relationship, and it's just kind of frustrating that he's just still able to do it through the coercive control, the court proceedings and everything. So
yeah, absolutely. And that was the same experience for me as well. I was under the impression, like, as soon as I became aware that I was in a domestic violence relationship, this was after 5 years, as soon as I became aware, I was told, like, you're in a domestic violence relationship, and I was shocked. And then it took a couple months for me to accept it and actually do something about it. And then it was my opinion, well, it was my thinking that, great, I'm ending this. I'm going to be free. Excellent.
yeah, right.
No, no, it doesn't magically stop there. Like, we're not dealing with normal people. Like,
No, and even,
unfortunately.
I reached out to, I finally went and got law enforcement involved, and that still didn't end it, unfortunately. So it was just a long process.
That was the same experience for me as well. I have done like way too many police reports for me to count on two hands. They just simply don't listen to the law, like in my experience.
They think they're above the law.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Yeah, they
in
do.
their mind, they create a whole scenario, and they have a comeback or something to say for every single thing that comes about.
Yeah, that's right. So even where are you from, Alicia?
I'm from Iowa.
Okay, great.
My experience, it entices them more when you get the law involved. It either provokes them, or they just want to see what they can get away with, or
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Like, really like to push those boundaries and test them, and then just exactly see how much they can get away with. And also, like, at the same time, it enrages them to a point where it's kind of like they're encouraged or motivated to do more, which is, yeah. Yeah, so I am I'm from Australia, so a little bit further away, but I think Dawnelle's a bit closer to you.
Yes,
Where are you
I'm in
from?
Louisiana.
Louisiana. Yep, you're a little bit
Yes.
closer than Australia.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so in Australia, and I think like my understanding is quite similar in America, but you can get the intervention order issued, which is this beautiful piece of paper that says what they're not supposed to do. For example, can't come within 50 meters, no contact whatsoever by phone, email, social media. And in my experience, the piece of paper did absolutely nothing. And when he doesn't comply, like the law enforcement, like they just called him up, be like, and it didn't exactly go like this, but hey, dude, can you not do that? Cool, thanks. And like, where's the
Right.
accountability?
Because there's no physical evidence. It's kind of your word against their word until things just pile up and all the evidence kind of eventually points back to them. But this is after a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to go through a lot to actually get all of the evidence to show that they're continually breaching and something needs to be done about it. And
Well, each time you show them or each time you go forward with it, then you kind of just poke the bear.
yeah, that's right. And like I was told by the police that it was going to be too expensive for them to go to trial. I'm like, what? Like this guy is not complying with orders and you're telling me it's too expensive? Like, oh, it's just it's mind-blowing.
It is, and some women just can't take it. Sometimes
Exactly.
it ends up being that they're very depressed, have suicidal thoughts, if not actually do something to themselves.
Yeah, and it's like it's understandable when you're not being heard. Like when the people who are supposed to protect you can't protect you, and like you're struggling to even protect yourself while you're going through this psychological abuse. Like it's hard enough to comprehend what you're going through, let alone trying to do something about it. Yeah, it's very difficult, but we will be sharing some tips and insights. So perhaps we will jump into that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to cover off on the 3 stages of coercive control. So the first stage is love bombing, where they shower you with love. They shower you with affection. Like I said, you feel like you're swept off your feet by your Prince Charming. And this can be done in a lot of different ways. The second stage is to isolate you. So they take you away either physically or psychologically, cut you off from people. So, and these people would usually help you untangle their mind games. But when you're cut off, then you're isolated and you don't have that help to rely on other people's insights. Then the third stage is control. So then they finally have you sucked in and you become a prisoner. So once that control is set, that therefore creates the cycle of controlling abuse. So Dawnelle, do you want to share a bit about the impact?
Yes. So yes, there are many impacts. As I mentioned before, it creates invisible chains and a sense of fear for the victim or overcomer. You're afraid to tell your story. There's no scars, there's no bruises, no broken bones. So it's hard for people to see what's going on or even comprehend what's going on in your relationship. It creates post-traumatic stress and depression, as I mentioned a little while ago. And very sadly, for some, it creates suicidal thoughts that sometimes end up being going through with it. And also it produces low self-esteem and difficulty in trusting others. So this starts to paralyze new relationships that you might have. And it's a predictor to physical violence and homicide. Sometimes the abuser is like, if they can't have you and they can't control you, then nobody else will. And this is likened to, there's an author, his name is Evan Starks, and he wrote a book on coercive control. And he likens it to being taken hostage, as Amy has mentioned several times. And he says in the book, the victim becomes captive in an unreal world created by the abuser, entrapped in a world of confusion, contradiction, and fear. So this has huge impacts. Once a woman is able to get out of the relationship, and often it takes multiple tries for a woman to actually leave. They're left out there without their identity, low self-esteem, low confidence, and without having tools that we're going to tell you about. You can be in another relationship just like this one. You have to break the cycle and take control and empower yourself to be more confident and to value yourself and know who you are again. Know what you like. Pick out your clothes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that, like, Evan Stark's quote that you shared, it just really lands for me. And I think, you know, he describes it perfectly. And you're exactly right, Dawnelle. Like, if you don't break the cycle, this will continue to happen. And I'm sure, like, well, I know after speaking with all my clients over the past couple of years, I'm looking at the year, after the past couple of years, everyone has got a cycle of abuse, and coercive control is huge because it's psychological, and it's very difficult to break that psychological pattern. So yeah, it's very important to understand what coercive control is and how to break it. So for me, my how I was able to break it. So particularly when I've been talking about my now ex-husband, and I mentioned to Alicia before, like, you think it's going to be over when you leave. Not the case. So my physical escape occurred after 5 years when we lost our house and he was sent to rehab. So that was my physical escape. And like I mentioned, it was not over. The psychological escape was 3 years later. I'm not talking about 3 months. I'm talking about 3 years. I was still being coercively controlled. I was still trapped in the cycle of abuse. And yes, this had a lot to do with, well, the family court proceedings didn't start for 6 months after we separated. But I'm saying 3 years, I was still trapped there. I was still under his control. And we weren't living together, but coercive control, like Dawnelle mentioned, It's not only financial abuse, jealousy, constant insults, monitoring your movements. Like, this also includes harassment. It includes stalking and threats. So when you think about this, of course, these things can still happen after you leave. So that's why it is so important to actually seek help and do something about it. It is very difficult when you're in the situation to actually step into your power, because I know when I was there, I felt like a shell of a person. I was living day by day and I could not see the next day. I was so frail. I was just trying to survive each day. So to be able to seek help and slowly start to regain yourself, that is when the true power of healing happens. So for me, I was able to seek the right help. Yes, I had been seeing a psychologist for a number of years, but when I was able to be connected to a certain program where I was able to discover the deep rooted trauma and actually heal from the roots, that is where things shifted for me. So I love to share this example where my best friend, Melissa, was in hospital. She was about 7 months pregnant with she had complications, so she was in hospital. And obviously she had a lot going on. But she turned to me and she said, "Wow, Amy, do you have a new skincare routine? Your eyes are so clear. They look incredible." And to that, I just I've got goosebumps even talking about it. To that, I just beamed. I could feel myself beaming. And I had this big smile come over my face. And I turned to her and I said, "No, I don't have a new skincare routine. I am healing. And I can see that it's working." When you have this physical change that represents your healing, how incredible. And your eyes don't have to go clear to know that you're healing. This is just an indication of the deep work that is healing. So for me, it comes down to awareness. First of all, having awareness, and then actually empowering yourself. So understanding what your values are, and then putting boundaries in place. So if you think about it, knowing your boundaries, putting these in place and enforcing these, this will make sure that the power imbalance doesn't happen. So this is key to making sure that you don't get into a coercive control relationship, and it will also prevent it going forward. In terms of healing, you do need to do the work. And what do I mean by doing the work? Yes, it's about seeing a therapist or a counselor or a psychologist. Like I said, I did that for a number of years, and I refer to this as talk therapy. It is very important to, particularly when you've been in a psychologically abusive relationship, because you are so trapped inside your head, exactly what we've been talking about. And like I said, I was just a shell of a person. So talk therapy allows you to get out of your head. And when you're talking to a professional, and I would suggest to try and find someone who does specialize in trauma, narcissism, and psychological abuse. Most are aware of this, but if you can try and find someone who specializes in it, it just helps for them to start educating you And so you can start recognizing what the red flags are, or even orange flags, I like to call them as well, before they become red flags. So talk therapy is undoubtedly required. But for me, like I said, the shift came when I was doing this deep-rooted healing. And this was in a particular healing program that I did, where it allows you to become free from being trapped in your mind. So this is where you're able to neutralize lopsided perceptions, and you're able to clear any blockages you have in your mind. And this is my daughter. And sorry about that. So it allows you to neutralize the lopsided perceptions, clear any blockages. And like I was saying, that when you're trapped in your head, you do have a lot of blockages. It also allows you to remove any judgments on yourself and judgments on other people as well. And when you've been experiencing coercive control, it's all about judgment, because you're so in your head. So to be able to decipher what these judgments are and how to actually just be neutral and not be riddled with fear and anxiety and overwhelmed by the situation, to actually have a neutralized, clear, calm mind full of just peace and happiness. This is what our healing program allows for. So it really creates that environment of freedom in your own mind. So Dawnelle went through the healing program, and it is a 4-month program where we join live every week, and we have 1-hour session where we essentially work on the hard stuff, which is specific processes to do exactly what I just spoke about. And it's 1 process per week, and we dig deep. We get in touch with the inner child, and we are healing from the root. So if you think of it like a tree, we heal from the root of the tree so the tree does not grow. So you can have that clear, free mind. And the sessions are 1 hour, like I said. Then during the week, the beautiful thing is you have weekly tasks to complete. So these are all on self-worth, self-empowerment. So it's about discovering who you are again, connecting to you and empowering yourself. So this program is beautiful because not only are you working on the hard stuff, but you're also learning to love and care for yourself again. So like I said, Dawnelle went through the healing program start of last year. And I just wanted to ask you, Dawnelle, do you remember what actually like triggered for you to want to join the program?
For me, I was seeking change. I was seeking something that was different than just talking to my therapist, to come out of my shell, to continue to build my self-confidence, to feel more comfortable in my skin. I had a lot of self-doubt. I had a lot of negative self-talk that would go on in my mind. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I saw a post on Instagram. It just was by God's grace, by the universe, whatever you might want to believe, that Amy was out there and she had a challenge. And I was just like, yes, I want change. How do I get it? And that's how I started the program.
Yeah, I remember that too. And I remember having like our first call together, and that's exactly what you're like. You're like, yes, I want change. And yeah, it's been so beautiful to watch you grow through the healing program, and then even more through the mindset and empowerment program. And now for you to become a mentor too. It's beautiful to have seen you grow, and now you can help other people too.
Right.
So
Helping other people gives you such a good, warm feeling on the inside. And it's so important to make sure that we share, that we help others, because so many are going through very similar situations, and it helps when others hear you tell your story. It helps them to come out just a little bit more than where they were before.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So, especially since you've been there as well. So, what did you find most beneficial during the program, Dawnelle?
I found that each of the processes were very much different, and they brought you out of your comfort zone. One of my favorite processes was called a tapping process. And it sounds a little bit strange, but this process was amazing. I had a very negative charge against the person that I was working on. And by the end of the session, I could just feel it going away. And even today, when I think about the situation and the person, I don't get all revved up. I don't feel anxiety. It's completely gone. It's from the root. And if you practice, if you get into it, if you go deep, that's when you're going to get the benefits.
Yeah. How incredible is that? Like, knowing what we've gone through, just to have that pain essentially removed, and like that, to not be in that web anymore. Like, oh my gosh, I would have paid millions to have that help, like literally millions. I was just so desperate for answers and help, and thankfully it didn't cost me millions. So what, like with the healing program, what were you able to do after the program that you weren't able to do before?
Oh my goodness. First of all, I couldn't even tell you who I was, what I liked. I couldn't even tell you what color I liked. I couldn't journal. I could not even write down, like I said, what I liked. I would cry at every turn if there was anything about creating goals. So I was able to list my values. I was able to come up with goals that didn't feel like somebody was pulling them out of me. I'm very excited to write down goals now. I know what my values are. So I'm setting boundaries. And mind you, healing is a constant thing. You're not going to be healed from day one, but you have these little pieces. You have your values, you set your boundaries, you journal, you connect with yourself, you connect with other women, and it becomes easier one day at a time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's so important to have that community and that support, which is what we provide at the Freedom Mentor. And then you feel like you're not alone. And I certainly remember, the struggles with journaling, and I struggled with it too. But journaling, like my partner will tell you, it's my superpower to knowing who I am and empowering myself. So yeah, it is very powerful to learn how to do it. and we teach you this as part of the program. And I like one of the main things that I remember when we first met, Dawnelle, was you were saying like how incredibly difficult it was for you to set goals, and I hope it's okay for me to share. You were saying like you would it would bring you to tears, like just so incredibly overwhelming.
Yes.
And that just stuck with me, because that is how you are. Like exactly what I said, you can't see past today. So how could you possibly set goals when you can't see past today? So yeah, I just wanted to share those insights, because I think it's so powerful to actually know, you know, what it's like to be in that mindset. Was there anything else that you'd like to mention about the program, Dawnelle?
Let's see. I mean, Amy is such a gentle and welcoming spirit. She made it very, very easy to go through the program. She was patient. She was kept me accountable. After every task, she would ask, "How are you doing with it? How are you making out?" So she makes it incredible, and I'm hoping that I can be half the mentor that she has become. So
Oh, thank you so much.
The other thing I want to say.
Yeah, thank you. And you are an incredible mentor too, from the people who have experienced you. They have told that to me. So yeah, with that being said, and I really appreciate your kind words as always. So with that being said, I think you know, and Alicia just popped in a message to say that her phone was about to die because of her battery. So she has dropped off at the moment. But if anyone would like some more information about the program that Dawnelle and I facilitate, then please just let us know. Drop us a comment below or send us a message. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. If you want to speak to Dawnelle, I'm sure she will happily volunteer to chat to you about any questions. Likewise, am I. So feel free to book a discovery call. I will pop the link in. I'll share the link that also has a link to buy my book as well. So my book is called My Life on Eggshells, which I'm sure a lot of people who are experiencing coercive control can relate to that. So the link has everything in it, link to our Facebook group. Yeah, so I will pop that in the comments below. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Otherwise, we shall wrap it up for now, and we will share with you about the next month's topic very soon. I'm super excited for this one. It is going to be something different, something a bit bigger, and we are going to have some special guests. So very excited to share next month with you as well. Thank you very much for joining us today. Dawnelle, did you want any final comments?
No, thank you so much for everyone that joined or listened later. This is very enjoyable. I very much enjoy sharing and reaching out to other women. As Amy said below, if you want any more information, comment below. Either one of us would be happy to chat and give you more information on the programs. Thank you for enjoying, and thank you for joining or listening.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.